Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. This is Michael Vass of MV Consulting Incorporated, and I'm here today again with Assemblywoman Donna Lupardo. She's been very gracious and allowed us to come back and speak with her again. As you may recall, we've had an interview with her prior to the 2010 midterm elections. So today we want to go back over some of the thoughts that we discussed then, and it's a busy day, so you'll hear that every so often. And at the same time, just looking forward to what's going to be happening in 2011. Assemblywoman, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
How are you doing, by the way?
I'm good.
Yeah. Nice win on the election.
Thank you.
We see that you've also gained a couple of committee positions since then.
Well, not officially yet. I've requested transfer to the Committee on Economic Development, and the Speaker has communicated with me his interest in putting me on that committee, but it has to always go through the chair and has to be finalized. But that would be a big help for me and for the district to be placed on that committee.
Okay. Well, that's one of the things I wanted to address on the new business. Was the question of what exactly, how does that interact, or that appointment help or benefit the constituents?
Well, we have a unique set of circumstances here in the Southern Tier, and I find myself one of the few people who's able to articulate those challenges. Of course, we have Senator Libous in the Senate and a number of members from his conference who represent the Southern Tier who I can work with, but in the State Assembly, at least in the Democratic Conference, I'm the only person who represents an area in the Southern Tier from this place all the way across into Jamestown. So I feel a special obligation to communicate what we're dealing with here, being that we're on the border with Pennsylvania.
Right.
And we've spoken about this in the past.
Yes.
And it's very aggravating to me that people are really unaware of this as a region, at least in the Democratic Conference, who are very more focused on downstate than in our areas. When they think about upstate, they oftentimes will think about what I call the throughway cities, Albany, Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, and Niagara Falls. And rarely do they think of this as a separate section. And now that we have an opportunity with the Lieutenant Governor being from Rochester,
right,
and these economic development councils that we're going to be trying to set up so that economic development can be done with some regional co-parents.
Right. I've
already started talking to them to make sure the Southern Tier has, a separate and unique, focus.
It kind of plays into something we were discussing last year. We've been speaking about, and I have here my notes.
Innovation.
The innovation, yes. And it seems that ties into that to some extent.
Exactly. Well, that's the other reason that I want to be on that committee, because we have to integrate the interests of the university system into the economic discussions. We don't want to boil university and higher education down to simply an economic driver or simply a place where people are employed and trains people for jobs. Clearly, the higher education has a higher mission, but certainly a critical factor in our local economy. And we want to be sure that these economic councils factor in the university not only for the jobs that they create and training, but also for the innovations that are coming out of these centers, especially here at Binghamton University, which is by far, if you speak to hardly everyone across the state, they will talk about Binghamton University's small-scale systems packaging approach is cutting edge. All of the future developments that people are interested in, basically putting big things into small packages.
Right.
That's what they're doing up at Binghamton University. If we figure out how to bring these things to market, they're working on it, and they do have some projects collaborating with IBM, for example, and out at the facilities that are going on at Endicott Interconnect and Endicott and other places. They're trying to commercialize these things. What we want to do is to try to establish some public-private partnerships so that people are more inclined to develop prototypes and develop these products here rather than going over to China, for example, where they're more than happy to take our best innovations and bring those to market because they have the capital. And oftentimes, it's only, and it's going to sound like a lot of money to some people, but $250,000. We've lost fabulous inventions to places that have the money to try the prototype and, work out some of the beginning developments of
those initial stages.
Exactly.
Which is often the most critical, because from that initial stage you get everything else.
Right. Well, they call it the valley of death, where there's this valley of death between the development of the product and bringing it to market. And I wasn't really aware of that so much until I started meeting with some of these developers and took that trip to China, where I got to see how they were doing this themselves. And I came back committed to making sure that whatever comes out of Binghamton University stays here and benefits the public in our communities.
Okay. And I can see directly how that ties into Governor Cuomo's plans with using the SUNY system as an economic driver, which...
As an economic driver, exactly. One of several critical ones in upstate, agriculture being the other, by the way.
That's another one. Well, we could have many, many long discussions. And yes, that is another one which they need to emphasize a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But next question: how often do you get to speak with, say, Mayor Ryan, Senator Gillibrand, Representative Hinchy, and/or your counterpart, Senator Lewis? Do you get to speak with them often?
Well, I get to speak with them as often as I need to speak with them. Certainly the mayor contacts me a lot because of various projects that he's doing in the city that require state assistance. And certainly this whole issue of mandate relief right now is really important to him. He's part of a group of mayors that's trying to make sure that when we address this issue of a property tax cap, that we are fully aware of the fact that these municipalities can't cap what they can control. So he's on the phone with me a lot, let's just put it that way, because I am a partner for him at the Capitol.
Right.
When it comes to our federal representatives, I have a conversation with Senator Gillibrand's staff, a conference call in a couple of weeks over a veterans issue that I'm trying to work on with Binghamton University. And the others, it depends on the project. If there's some overlap, they're very, very willing to talk with me. Of course, Senator Libous and I, we have sponsored and passed a lot of bills together. And now that he's back in the majority, I understand that we're going to be doing a lot more. And in fact, any minute I'm waiting for a call to go down and meet with him about a motorcycle bill that he and I are going to be working at together.
Well, that's interesting because, and I asked that question because of this next one. Currently we've been speaking with Senator Lewis's staff. I'm trying to get a comment from him in reference to, maybe that's him, in reference to the A7733 gun control bill, the mental disabilities. There's no short name for it.
It's not really viewed as a gun control bill, so to speak. We just want to make sure that those individuals who have a mental health diagnosis and have been adjudicated in a court of law, who have been remanded, or I should say, who have been placed in a psychiatric facility, or who have been deemed by a court of law to be incompetent, those people, we want to make sure there's a process in place for them to surrender their weapons, and a process in place for them to get it back once they are better.
Right. And I've looked over the bill. It's very explicit in what it does. It's very succinct in what it's, the language that's being used.
If you're incapacitated, court-ordered to treatment, committed to a mental facility, it's pretty cut and dry. You're probably going to ask me, so what was the problem?
Well, the problem is, we know that it's been put in front of the State Assembly twice and been passed unanimously, which means it's bipartisan. No one has a problem with it. It goes to the state, and it dies without anyone even putting it into committee. It's basically put on a shelf. They won't vote on it. They don't talk about it. That's in 2009. That's in 2010. we're trying to understand, one of the questions I have is, for something that benefits the constituents, something that there's bipartisan agreement on, something that all the gun owners and Second Amendment advocates I know agree this is a good bill, why aren't they touching it?